Hello and welcome to UpperPen. My name is Dakota, and today I am interviewing someone I feel is so much smarter than me. At least this book is so much smarter than I could have ever been. That person is John Chu, and the book we are talking about is The Subtle Art of Folding Space, which comes out on April 7th. Thank you so much for being here, John.
Thank you for inviting me.
For folks who've not yet heard, what is The Subtle Art of Folding Space?
Okay, you would think that I would be good at pitching this novel by now. I genuinely am not. Okay, so the premise of the subtle art, the premise, um, is that um is that each universe has machinery in it. It's called the Skunk Works that generates the next universe in. So you have like this Matryoshka doll set of universes that it's infinite, although it doesn't actually matter in this novel. And so my main character Ellie is one of the people in our universe, well, ostensibly our universe, that understands that basically that understands the machinery that generates the physics of this universe. And at the start of the novel, her her cousin Daniel shows her a mechanism that has been inserted into this mechanism that basically attempts to keep her comatose mother alive. This is basically perverting the laws of physics for your own personal gain is something that is intensely frowned upon. It's basically it is a violation of everything that her mother stands for, that her mother has ever taught her. And then so for her, there's no question. She dismantles this she dismantles this mechanism to the obvious consequences. But it turns out that there are other consequences that to this that she doesn't realize. And then so the rest of the novel is 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 basically about how she deals with those ramifications, both in terms and ultimately she is forced to sort of to choose between her mother's final wishes and the universe itself.
And then there's also what I consider the real meat of the story, which is the family issues that are
Yes,
going on.
yes, she has a sister. She has a sister named Chris who low key sets like attempts to assassinate her on a regular basis. They don't get along particularly well. Although Ellie wants to, and it in fact is her mother's wish that the mother's wish that her daughters actually eventually get along. And then the family dynamics end up playing a huge part in the story.
I want to say the opening scene is um, her sister taking someone over on a train station and kind of testing her. Is that what's going on in that scene?
Um, well, I think what the opening scene is intended to like that's what their dynamic is.
Yeah.
Like the opening scene is this is their normal. This is how they deal with each other before everything starts to get really wacky and weird and strange and stressful. So so part of it is that the geography of the situation is that Ellie lives out just outside of Boston. Um, Chris lives just outside of DC, which is where which is where their currently comatose mother is. So Chris is actually the primary caregiver, and at the start of the story, Ellie is going down to DC as she does every weekend because basically she's in grad school in Boston. And then so her life at this point is split between grad school and going down to DC to visit her mother every weekend. And then so to a certain extent, because Ellie is the primary caregiver. No, sorry, let me try that again. Because Chris is the primary caregiver, and Ellie is not there all the time, and because Chris is who she is, there's a lot of guilt tripping. So to some extent, that's what is happening in that scene. In that's well, there are a couple of other things happening, but in terms of the family relationship, that's the thing that's happening. So it starts off with well, I can't do this because I'm taking care of mom, so you have to do this.
It's a really good intro to like kind of what this book is going to be, right? Because we get their relationship dynamic, but then we also get the idea of how they get into the skunk works, and what the skunk works is kind of compared to our world. Um, I was confused for a minute on how we were getting there because I'm telling you, this book is so much smarter than I am. I had to read it a couple times to understand how she got there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is that like there like my own like and then this is actually a thing that I had to work with in this novel is that my own natural inclination is that if it is not particularly crucial to the to the to the workings of the story, I tend not to mention it. So to a large extent, I will say that the way they travel does in fact get a little. I do in fact spend a little more time on it later in the book. But there, what was important was that she just needed to be in the skunk work. So it kind of happens in the chapter break.
Yeah. Did you find that it was you had to do some editing to make these jumps or like explain a little bit what's going on in your mind?
Well, okay, so a lot. Okay, so the first three chapters
Mhm.
originally were a short story called "Hold Time Violations" that is published at what is now Reactor.
Oh,
They're not in the book in that form. In part because and then this is the thing that Mary Robner Colwell talks about, and then sort of where I first started from, which, and it's about the difference between novel pacing and short story pacing,
mhm.
where if you read a short story and you think, oh, well, they didn't mention this or they didn't talk about Philip, whatever it is, the short story reader will go, oh, well, it's outside the bounds of the short story,
Yeah.
and then they will just go with it, and it's fine. And but you have exactly the same text, and it's now part of a novel. The novel reader will read it and go, "Oh, this thing is missing. The writer must not have thought of it," and then they won't just go with it. It will be this visceral missing thing. And so a lot of what I had to learn in terms of writing this novel, and in particular reworking and in particular reworking whole time violations to become the first three chapters of this novel was making everything conform to novel pacing as opposed to short story pacing. So so big chunks of it actually got either revised or expanded because like I said at one point because at one point in like I should know which chapter this is, but it's like chapter two or three. Like Daniel disappears, goes off and does something, and comes back, and if you're reading in a short story, you will just you will just flow with that. And then in the novel, I really needed to make that much more explicit that there was that there is this time where Ellie is just there by herself trying to figure out what's happening, and then so it's much more explicit that Daniel has gone somewhere else. Um, so um, so I think part of it is that my natural inclination is, well, you don't actually need to know this, and then like one of the things that I had to learn in terms of writing this novel was sort of to fill in some of those things that I didn't need to fill in for a short story.
It feels really tight too. Like everything that I need to know is eventually revealed, right? The the point is you have to keep reading to understand. But it it feels like you um, well, you were a short story writer for a while and you did
Well, I still am,
really
but
well. Oh, I didn't realize you still were. But you actually won a Hugo Award for one of your short stories, right? It's the
the
not
water
this
that falls
short
on you,
story. Yeah.
the water that falls on you from nowhere. I won a Hugo for that in 2014,
Yeah. So
which surprised the hell out of me. But
was it like a good surprise though? You were like, I didn't.
no, it was a great surprise. Like when I got the email telling me that I was a finalist, I literally shrieked. Um, like I suspect that my upstairs neighbors were like, "What is that noise? Why is there this person screaming downstairs?" So no, I literally shrieked. My win just like kind of um like kind of blindsided me like the day of the Hugo ceremony. Like one of my friends had to pull me aside and go, John, you need to write a speech. If you do not write a speech, and then if you win, it is not going to go well for you. So I actually like scribbled out a speech while I was like changing into my tux for the Hugo ceremony. um and then actually when I won, I actually do not remember that moment. Like I had to watch the video to like my memory of that moment is essentially the video. Like I remember like seeing that, like watching the video and then seeing what I did. Like I have like no firsthand memory of that. Like that was how much of a shock it was. Um
Okay.
there are like a few minutes where I was just not forming memories.
Your brain was just so overstimulated.
Like like yeah like no, I'm pretty sure I was just in shock. So so I like I genuinely did not expect any of that to happen. In part because it was my third, and in part because that was like my third short story published at a SIFWA eligible rate.
Oh,
So like I had just started getting published, and I'm just like, oh, I've been nominated for a Hugo. Didn't expect that. And then and I certainly didn't expect to win because because particularly like you like when you're nominated, you kind of want to be like in the group of death. Like all of the other stories are just like these fabulous, amazing stories that you feel absolutely deserve the Hugo. And I was in a group of death. Like I read all the other stories and they were all amazing. And then that was and then actually that was back when I was and then that was when I was that was back when I was publishing lists of stories that I'd read over the years that I felt absolutely deserved a Hugo. And
yeah.
at least one of those stories was on that list.
Ooh. Did you send them a consolation prize? Sorry, you didn't make it.
Uh, so actually I know them, so I think I may have apologized in person.
I would not be surprised though if this got nominated for a Hugo Award because it does so well of like mixing these sci-fi elements with like a family drama story.
Oh no, thank you so much. Your words to mouth, your words to God's ears. Um,
I bet someone's gonna nominate you. I get this feeling.
but yeah, for me, but for me, the family story is sort of the crux
Yeah.
of the novel. That ultimately it is about the relationships between. It is about because we have two sisters and a cousin, and then for me the crux of the novel is their relationships with each is how they relate to each other, and then how those relationships evolve over the course of over the course of the novel, and and then how and then how their dead mother, or in the case of the cousin, the dead aunt, um um looms over what they're doing. By the way, I should just point out, because I'm spending all this time talking about family trauma and death, I also want to point out that the novel is a lot of fun.
Yes.
There's a lot of really like it is kind of wacky, and it's a very fast paced, and I do think I do think it is kind of a thrill ride. But there is also like but you get both. why settle?
I think that's a product of, so I think this is done so well that maybe because you are a short story writer, but you balance these kind of funnier moments with the sisters not getting along or the aunt kind of being rude to Ellie at the funeral. And like Daniel in particular is a wonderful character for
Oh,
the
thank
comic
you.
relief. He's my favorite out of the three, to be honest.
Thank you. Yeah. A lot of people say that, and I under and no, you're not the only one. No, and I absolutely understand why, and then and then that is very much the function that he serves. Like he has a serious like he absolutely has a serious side, and then there is a seriousness. Then there is a seriousness to his character arc, but but a lot of it was that you can't just have straight you can't just have undiluted family trauma like that would be unbearable, and then so you do need so you do sort of need that contrast, and you need that leavening, and and um and then part of it was that I wanted Ellie to have to deal with all of this in circumstances that get increasingly bizarre as time goes on.
One of my favorite things that you mentioned right from the beginning is are they the isolationists or the
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
there's a group called the Isolationists.
And how her sister always told her as a kid that these were like the big bad people who were going to come and assassinate you in the middle of the night. I think that's just like a very funny, bizarre thing for a much older sister to tell her younger sister. Uh,
Um, I mean, again, like I said, that's like I mean, like one of the things I've learned as a short story writer. One of the things that I learned writing in general, but I've mostly applied it to short stories because most of what I write is, I mean, most of what I write still is short stories is that everything kind of needs to be multi-purpose. Everything kind of needs to serve as many functions as possible. And then so that was a way of introducing yet another group of people. And then that was a way of telling you something about who Chris is. And the relationship that Chris and Ellie have, because there it kind because they're taken at face value, it kind of sounds like Chris genuinely has Ellie's interest at heart, and on some level I think Chris actually does on some level. um, but but as the novel progresses, you get to reevaluate what Chris told Ellie in different contexts, and you get to sort of to see what she was actually saying. And then I think, and then that was a thing that I very much wanted to do, in part because in part because I knew as I was writing this that Chris was not going to be physically on stage a whole lot. So I had to find ways of her being around without actually her being around.
what stopped you from putting her physically on stage or on the page more?
Well, part of it is the plot,
Fair.
like, 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 like. I don't want to get into too much details because we get into spoiler-y things, but as you know, but like it's one of these after you read the book, you realize what she has to have been doing over the course of the book, and then that ends up, and then what that means, and that kind of like precludes her from actually being on stage. So part of it is that. Part of it is that I had created a relationship with Ellie and Chris where it's pretty clear that if they spend more than like 3 or 4 minutes in the same room with each other, one of the two people will probably die. And then so I and then having created such a volatile relationship, I really needed get their relationship to a place where at least it seems like that's not going to happen before they could be in a room together, before they could really meaningfully be in a room together.
Okay. That
So,
makes sense.
but
Um,
but a lot of it, but a lot of it was I was writing the book and I'm just like, oh wait, she's Chris is busy off doing these other things, and I didn't want to add a POV. So
I do think this is Ellie's story too. Like if you
yes.
put too much of Chris in here, I think it would have detracted from how Ellie felt about Chris in these moments. She's really disillusioned with her sister at this point, at the beginning, and she doesn't want to be around her, it seems.
Yes, but yes, and then, yes, and I very much wanted this to be about Ellie
Yeah.
and her own sort of personal journey, like where she is at the beginning and then how she gets to where she is at the end.
So kind of going back to the framing of this story of family is this very I I don't even know if it's technical. Honestly, I am not smart enough to know if any of the physics that you talk about in here or any of the ideas or even like theoretical ideas of science and space and alternate realities. I guess so. Where did you get the making of the framework of the story, the folding of space and things?
Oh, okay. So there are a bunch of things that happen there. One of which is that the International Prototype Kilogram was a thing that there was a long stretch of time where our definition of the kilogram was like this hunk of I think it was platinum iridium alloy. I forget what the exact metal is. But like and then there was a stretch of time where the mass of the reference kilogram and the mass of its clones differed. So there was actually a stretch of time where theoretically we didn't really know what like what a kilogram was. This novel took so long to write. The definition of the kilogram actually changed while I was writing it, and I'm just like, I've written that section. I'm not going back and fixing it. Um, but anyway, so part of it, so that led me down this path of well, sort of in sort of this very science fictional, science fantasy sort of way. Well, why might like what if we had a universe where our fundamental constants were not constant? Like how might that happen? And then so that's what led me to something like the Skunk Works. Well, what if we have like this machinery that generates the universe, and that machinery has bugs? So part of it was that. Part of it is that if you read the Feynman lectures on physics, um, there is this throwaway bit in one of the lectures where Feynman talks about how in the beginning of the 20th century, physicists thought that they had basically like won physics, like they understood, like not that they had answered all the questions, but they thought that they had a path, that everything was knowable, that they understood basically how physics worked. And then they discovered quantum phenomena.
Yeah.
So if you notice there's a lot of reference to how and I just thought it would be funny if quantum phenomenon didn't exist until like the beginning of the 20th century when suddenly it did. To the dismay of physicists all over the world. Um, and then because I now have this mechanism that generates physics, that sort of slotted in very neatly with that. And and like I said, I was talking before about how like rules about how that it's everything that these group of maintainers that what they stand for is to keep the rules of physics constant, that they maintain them, they don't change them. But I wanted to show that there was a case where the rules of physics changed. Like a century ago, the rules of physics changed. And then I wanted that to reflect on the current on what was current, what the novel's present. So that's kind of how all of that happened.
So it does have some kernel of you know a lot of things about physics, it sounds like.
Um, I, I mean that I will say that there are lots of people who know much more about physics
But
than I do. Like and then actually, and I don't think a deep knowledge of physics is necessary to understand the novel.
no.
But I think if you have a deep, but hopefully, if I've done my job well, a deep knowledge of physics will not detract from your knowledge. Which is to say that I've for the most part kept my speculations to places where like to stuff we don't know for the most
Okay.
part.
That makes sense. So did you put any limitations on the things that can be done in the skunk works? Because they're changing how things are put together. You have like these three classes of jobs in the skunk works, and they each kind of function differently. And then there's one who can do all three of them. But did you have to put limitations on it to make it so that these were not basically anything that you could think of?
Um, well, what I decided was that what I would like because if you notice all the things all boil down to, hey, all boil down to situations where these are the possible things that can happen. Only one of them actually does. But look, the remnants, the other possibilities are still hanging out as stray bits of data in the skunk works somewhere. Like everything that happens is one variant or other of that. So it's not that literally anything can happen, but it's that whatever is that there are lots of cases where you see, I mean, again, we get into sort of it's kind of like alternate realities. We get to see something that's like a left turn from something that actually did happen.
Okay. So in the beginning, when we're first introduced to Daniel, he does almost magic to me, like because he produces this piece of food from the ideas or the things around him in the skunk works. So how does that work?
Um, well, see, that's the thing is that and again, this goes back to this goes back to what I was saying at the top, which is that there are any number of things where I just felt like where I just felt like, well, with this like the actual mechanics, like you don't need to understand the actual
Yeah.
mechanics of this to understand the mechanics of the story, so I just never bother explaining it. And then certainly as you get into the story, you see enough similarly wacky things, similarly outlandish things happen that because like I said, because as you point out, the first thing that you actually see happen is that her sister takes over somebody else's body.
Yeah.
And then so I and then so the idea so and then so the hope is that by the time you get to Daniel sort of manifesting an egg tart, that you sort of see it in that same continuum.
It's not jarring to see. I'm always just a little curious, like what what would be the you will not cross this type of like magic-y or hand wavy
Mm.
uh incident in the story, but it's okay if you don't have an answer too. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, and I think that that's part, and then for me, and I think this has a lot to do with my own sort of philosophy of science, which is that I'm not saying like I'm not saying I'm not saying that some things are I'm not saying that some things are fundamentally unknowable, but I'm saying that there are any number of things that you may not personally know the answer to. Like the whole thing about science is at this point is the whole thing about science is that we are constantly questioning and we are constant and then there are always questions and there are always things that we don't know. And then so as with and then so as with this novel, there are just going to be some things that you don't know.
I do like it though, because I like that he makes an egg tart. I was like, now I kind of want an egg tart. Not one that tastes like that, but an egg tart. But um so kind of circling back to the real crux of the story, their family. One of the interesting things is on the cover it says that they're Chinese, and then in the book they are Taiwanese-Americans. Can you explain what happened here with the
Okay,
disconnect?
okay, I blame it on the English language. Um, like there's ethnically Chinese, and then there's like Chinese from China, and in English we use the same word for both. I mean, like I didn't catch the back cover in time. If I had, I probably would have asked them to change the Chinese on the back cover to Taiwanese, because that might have been less confusing. But basically, whenever and there shouldn't be, and I'm pretty sure I caught, I'm pretty sure I they are referred to strictly as Taiwanese
Yeah.
within the novel. But I mean Chinese in the ethnic, but I mean Chinese in the ethnic sense, in that, in that Ellie's ancestors almost certainly came from China, although Ellie, and although Ellie, Chris, and then their mother Vera came from Taiwan.
And actually, Ellie didn't spend much time or any time in Taiwan, but her sister did, so she got a little bit of what living in Taiwan was like, and that causes another disconnect between them, it feels.
Um, it's like nobody's ages are explicitly no,
Explained, yeah.
in the novel, but in my head, but in my head, Ellie probably left Taiwan relatively early.
Mhm,
I mean, old enough to form memories, and then old enough to speak Mandarin fluently,
mhm.
because that turns out, because that is weirdly enough a plot point. Um, but Chris is explicitly described as like being about a decade older.
Mhm,
And so Chris was probably like a teenager when she left. And then there is a huge difference between like leaving. I'm not saying these are not canonical, I'm just pulling
yeah.
out numbers. But there's a huge difference between like leaving Taiwan when you're 5, leaving Taiwan when you're
Yeah.
15. And then that is in fact, and that is very much a and then that is very much something that impacts the relationship.
And then we have Daniel, who was raised by Ellie and Chris's mom, because his I don't I don't know how to describe his parents and their relationship, but essentially he was kind of raised in that family, it feels.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for again, I'm trying to avoid spoilers,
Yeah, don't go
but
too
but
far.
but there are reasons, like basically it's pretty clear that at some point Vera is like, this is not a sustainable situation, you're living with us.
Yeah.
And then that happened, and then the other thing that happened was that the was is that Adi, which which is that the person that you had mentioned who could do everything,
Yeah.
effectively, effectively becomes a surrogate father to him.
And I really like these mentions um of Ellie understanding Mandarin in the beginning, and people are always talking, well, not always, but she gets a little flack because people don't think she knows Mandarin anymore. Um, did you have fun playing with what people will say when they don't think you know?
Okay. Well, part of that is a function of a personal experience,
Oh,
because I was born in Taiwan and I left Taiwan when I was about 6.
okay.
Um, and so I'm in sort of this very weird position where when I speak Chinese, I speak it with a mostly Taiwanese accent. At least I think I still do. I mean, I may not, and maybe people are just humoring me. But when I speak English, I sound like I come from the Midwest. Um, and 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 then so for the most part, no one who hears me speak English thinks that I speak Mandarin, including any number of Chinese. Well, see, it's kind of funny. There one or two things happen. There are any number of people, like there are any number of like ethnically Chinese people who would expect that I don't speak Mandarin and are very surprised that I do. But I will also say that when I was at university, there were any number of like say Chinese people from China or Chinese people from Taiwan who will just come up to me and then start talking to me in Mandarin and expect a coherent response, which was fine. I could do that. So I've gotten both, and then so the way Ellie navigates whether these expectations is actually very much a function of my own personal experience dealing with similar situations.
Okay.
Although I will say I have never pissed off an ant.
She seems a little vengeful sometimes. Like she can get you. But so the skunk works is really interesting to me because Ellie is effectively a mechanic or like somebody who maintains it. Um,
Right. She's the one who actually manipulates the hardware.
and Daniel is the one who kind of builds it from scratch, correct?
Well, no, Daniel checks that they built the thing right and they built the right thing.
Okay. So he's the double checker.
Right. He is right. He is the person going, oh no, no, you can't either. Oh no, no, you can't do it this way because then physics will behave in an incorrect way, or when he's the one like it's not a spoiler to say that when physics behaves incorrectly, he has a very physical, visceral response to that. And then he is the one who sort of goes, "Oh no, this is what has gone wrong. You have to go fix it."
I really love the scene where he brings her to I can't remember if it's the machine or the mechanism that's keeping her mom alive or something else right before it. Um, and she has to like figure out how to make it work properly or do a stopgap, right? So like do you just do a short-term fix or do you try and fix the whole thing? And I kind of like this idea for the whole novel. Like, are we going to try and fix everything or literally just make things work for now?
Um, yeah, for me that is sort of one of the themes running through the novel is the whole notion of sort of systems and institutions and that system and then that these things don't just run by themselves. They require active maintenance. They require people to make sure that things are working correctly, that to make sure that if there are guardrails, like the guardrails don't just sort of hold themselves up, that people need to enforce the guardrails. And then that sometimes the thing, like sometimes the call is coming from inside, sometimes the call is coming from inside the house, that the thing wrecking the institution or the system is something within the system itself. And then when that happens, and you see it happening and you are in a position that such that you are the person with the tools and the knowledge to do something about this. Well, what do you do? Do you just sit there or do you do something about it?
It's like it's a, I don't know. I think it's really helpful to understanding what Ellie wants out of her relationship with her sister, or how she wants to live in the world is kind of these little moments of her working on this machinery. And maybe that's just me being really silly, but it
Oh
feels
no,
like
no,
a good
absolutely not.
metaphor.
That was what I was going after.
Perfect. And then Daniel is very much more, I don't want to say flippant, but he's more willing to not interrupt things if it needs to be fixed. He like brings a problem to Ellie, right?
Mhm.
And it's her choice. Do you fix it or do you not fix it? Is that kind of his personality in the whole book?
Um, like Daniel has very clearly hit a point in his life where there are maybe three people in the world whose opinions he cares about, and everybody else can just sort of like he just doesn't care. Like Like, so like there's this boyfriend, there's Audie and there's Ellie, and like he kind of cares what they think, and if and then everybody else and everybody else he is just everybody else he is sort of much more blunt with.
I think that's what makes him one of my favorites, is he's just like, I don't care anymore.
He is very much this is the right thing, and this is the right thing, and you should just go do the right thing. And he kind of doesn't care how difficult it might be for you to go do the right thing. It's just the right thing.
Um, so I don't really want to talk about the book too much more because I feel like if we talk much more, it's going to get very spoilery, and I really want people to read this and have an experience, right?
Mhm.
Even reading the sentences that you've written are kind of an experience because you'll have like contradicting ideas in the same sentence every now and again. And I think it's intentional. It works very well for how the skunk works is kind of contradicting itself in some places.
I sweated bullets out over every sentence.
Oh God.
By the time I was done, every sentence was as exquisitely crafted as I could have made it. I worked so hard on the text.
It's wonderfully written. Like
Thank you.
I was uncertain what was happening sometimes, but I was like the book is the writing is pulling me through regardless of whether or not I strictly understand the physics or like what's going on in this particular moment because I like how you write.
No, thank you so much. No, thank you. To some extent, that ambiguity is intentional because I want you to get because in almost every case, there is in fact something later that will make it all make sense.
Yeah.
But there, I think but I think to some extent that bewilderment sort of represents Ellie's bewilderment because like to some extent, like I said, she gets placed in increasingly strange, in increasingly bizarre circumstances. And these are not circumstances that she immediately understands right away, or in some cases ever. Like so I did in fact want that experience.
So is the book getting an audiobook version?
There is an audiobook.
Okay.
I Tor actually sent me a link to it and I haven't heard it yet. But there is an audiobook. I think I forget who it's published by. It's probably Audible. I don't remember now.
Well,
But there
Audible
is
or Tor or something, yeah.
right, but there is an audiobook. I had to audition. Well, I mean, they sent me like four different audiobook narrators, and like I said, and then in a lovely coincidence that saved everyone a lot of trouble. The one that I loved the best was the one they loved the best. So it kind of worked out. And then she like her audition was amazing. Okay, let me set the caveat that like I didn't expect this book to be published, much less get an audiobook. So and I feel like I feel like I need to apologize to the audiobook narrator because the novel ends up being very specific about how half the characters sound.
Well,
And at least in the section that I heard, she did like this amazing job of replicating my descriptions of how these characters sound. Which is one of the reasons why I picked her. But yeah, there's an audiobook. It should be, I mean, based on the bits that I've heard, it should be amazing.
I'm really excited to hear it because I liked reading it, but I want to hear someone kind of orate it like it's poetry almost. Like the the language is so wonderful. I kind of want to hear it as well as read it. So I'm excited. Um, are you working on anything right now or anything coming up that you're publishing?
Sorry. Sorry. One last second.
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, yeah, sorry about that. Well, right now I'm working on another novel. Um, let's see. But that and then that's probably taking up most of my writing time right now.
Okay. Is it like pitched anywhere or are you just writing?
Well, this is Tori gave me a two-book deal, so I owe
Oh,
them a novel, and
I'm
then this
excited.
is it.
Is it in the same universe or is it like you were free to do whatever you wanted?
Yeah, no, yeah, I could do whatever I wanted. So this novel is not related to um, this novel is not related to the subtle art of folding space at all. I mean, I do have some ideas for like I mean, like if Tor came to me and said, "We need a sequel to this novel," it's not like I'm going to say no. Well, actually, but I mean, I have some ideas. The thing is that this novel is very much a family story. This novel is very much a story about the relationship between Ellie and her sister Chris. And I feel like without giving anything away, I feel like by the time I get to the end of the novel, that relationship has hit a very stable place. That and so the next book can't be about the next book can't be about that. But I don't necessarily want to write a book that is okay. Just let me back up. Um, the Solar Folding Space, in a lot of ways, like it kind of has the structure of a crime. It kind of has the structure of a crime novel,
Yeah.
but that's not the story I'm telling. The story that I'm telling is this family story. And and I guess what it is and then my problem with like writing a sequel at this moment, not that I'm opposed to it, is that I don't want it to be. But and I should point out I love crime novels, like they are great, they are amazing, they are awesome, but I don't but in terms of what I want to but in terms of what I want to write right now, I don't like like for me I need another element to it. It's like like I don't like a sequel that where it is a crime where it is straightforwardly a crime novel. I I think somebody could do a really great job with that.
Yeah.
I don't know that I can do a really great job with that. And then so that's why the second book that I'm giving to Tor, that's not giving. They're paying for it, obviously. But the second book of my contract is something else entirely, because on one hand I love the world that I created in this for the subtle art of holding space. And then I can't imagine how there could be any number of other stories in this world.
Yeah.
But I guess what it is but I don't want it to be, oh, Ellie finds another anomaly and she has
Yeah.
to explore that anomaly. Like I think you know how that story, or I think you know how that story, I think you've heard that story and you
Yeah.
know how that story goes. And then I want to tell a new story. And then so I have to go find it.
I think my favorite sequels to any books or movies um shift the general idea of the story. So like this, The Subtle Art of Folding Space was a family genre book, like a family drama book. And like any sequel, I don't know that you could have the same type of family drama in it because it feels maybe not resolved, but concluded in the book, if that makes sense.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to say. Thank you.
Yeah. So like I feel like you'd have to go in a completely different direction than like this family's life story.
Right.
Are you allowed to talk about the book that you're working on now, or is it much too early?
Um, I would like to not talk about it mostly because by the time I'm done, it might be completely different.
Oh, that's fair.
Like I'm about half done with it, and a pile of things are still up in the air. and then like I would like to know where those things land before I talk about it. I think it's gonna be, I think it's gonna be really cool. I think it'll be interesting when I'm done with it. I just, but everything is still a little too wet and sticky.
Is it in the same like sci-fi genre type, or is it different?
Um,
Or is that still too specific?
well, okay. So the thing that I sort of say about my own work, and then again, this is like my own opinion about my own work, which which I will argue is no more or less valid than anybody else's opinions
Yeah.
about my own work. But I tend to write things that I think of as fantasy and other people think of as science fiction. And in part because there is genuinely this level of scienciness to it. I mean,
Yeah.
like the subtle art of folding space. I do in fact talk about quantum physics. With like the many worlds interpretation does in fact pop up several times, although not in those terms. Like I don't use those words, but it's effectively the many worlds interpretation of quantum physics. That does in fact pop up, and some of the things that happen are physically correct, are perhaps scrupulously physically correct. But there's also some amount of science that's just made up because it's in the areas of science where we don't know the answer.
Yeah.
And then so I tend to think of that as fantasy, and then so this novel, at least at the moment, is sort of very me in that I would look at it and go, well, this is fantasy, and I can imagine some number of people looking at it and go, well, this is science fiction, and I've kind of gotten used to inhabiting that space.
Okay. Everybody has their own definition of what science fiction is and versus fantasy because like you said there so much of it is speculative that like you've entered the realm of unreal. So
Yeah, no, and then yeah, so I love the term speculative fiction because then I don't have to commit.
perfect. Is there anywhere that people can get signed copies of the book?
Ah, okay, this requires me to be like way more on the ball than I currently am. Not at the moment.
Okay.
I haven't made an arrangement with the bookstore yet. I have a couple of I have a couple of signings coming up, so presumably there will be there presumably there may be signed copies at those bookstores after those author events. So so that would be like Odyssey Books in South Hadley, Massachusetts, Print in Portland, Maine, and Porter Square Books in Cambridge, Mass. I will be visiting those bookstores release week. And then so presumably there will be signed copies there, but I don't have like a standing thing with a bookstore.
Okay. And the last question is, where can people find you either on social media or find out what you're doing book-wise or literature?
Okay. Okay, so in theory, I have a newsletter. In practice, I don't really have a newsletter. Um, okay, so my website is johnchu.net, johnchu.net. Somebody is squatting on .com, which is like which but and they get to do that. But so I am .net. And that has a link to my bibliography, and that has a link to and then that has a link to my social media. I'm mostly on Blue Sky at this point, so I'm johnchu.bsky dot whatever, like whatever the rest of it is. But so I'm John Chu there. I'm John. I think I'm John underscore Chu at Mastodon. Um, and then those are probably the like I have an Instagram account, but like I keep forgetting to use it. But so on social media, I'm mostly on Blue Sky at this point.
Okay. So what I've understood is the book is coming out April 7th. You're going to do a couple of author events and maybe just go to johnchu.net to find out where you are.
Um, Actually, yeah, yeah. If you follow me on Blue Sky, I tend to be pretty good about saying, "Hey, this is what's happening."
Okay.
But
Blue sky it is. Thank you so much for chatting with me today.
oh, thank you for inviting me. This was fun. This was a lot of fun.
And then for anybody out there, if you've enjoyed this interview, please consider liking or rating it. It really helps me and it helps put John's book in front of other people who might not get to see it. And I do interviews like this almost every week. So consider following the podcast Upper Pen. And I hope everybody has a lovely, lovely day. Don't forget to go buy The Subtle Art of Folding Space April 7th. Thank you. Bye.